listen, I understand this is a guy that not many people are going to go to bat for, and I understand he hasn't performed very, very well, certainly not up to par with the contract that he signed in the summer of 2020. That would have been 2023, whenever he signed a 6-year deal with the Penguins. But it's kind of interesting to look at this and say, do they really have a plan for number 27? I mean, scratched for 5 games at the beginning of this month. Then he played in 6 straight, and in those games, he played very sheltered minutes. He was last among Penguins defensemen in ice time per game. But in those minutes, he was playing pretty well. He was leading the blue line in expected goals allowed per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 during those games. And yet, Saturday, he gets scratched for P.O. Joseph, which is the 9th time this season that Ryan Graves has been a healthy scratch. And this just makes me want to ask the question, what is the plan for Ryan Graves? Because they've wanted him to build confidence, and yet they've played him exclusively on the bottom pairing, even when there have been openings in the top 4 due to injury. And now he's eating healthy scratches in favor of P.O. Joseph, who, I get it, you traded for, you're not going to trade for him just to sit him. But, you know, there are other ways that you could go about doing this in which you continue to build that confidence for Graves and continue to build off of some decent play that he's had in that bottom pairing.
I have a couple of theories growing in my head on this. One of them makes sense and is probably more realistic. The other one is unlikely, but I'll get to in a minute. Starting with the realistic one, I can remember I asked Mike Sullivan, this was 2 seasons ago now. This was when we still had Jeff Petrie on the team, when there was still Jan Ruda around. The Penguins traded for, I forget his name now, Dmitry Kulikov. I asked Mike Sullivan, because they didn't trade a defenseman away the entire time. They just added Kulikov in. I asked him essentially about if this competition they're essentially building, or if they are building a defensive competition, how that should do. I mean, is there now, I think I asked him essentially, is there now a competition on the blue line? He's point blank said yes. And it was much less of a competition as the season went on, because I think just Kulikov stayed in until, he got hurt.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So
him and Nick Bonino.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. That's correct. Now I'm on track again. Yeah, it was a competition until they were no longer in the lineup. So it filtered out pretty quickly. Last year, there was a bit less of a competition, but now that they've added P.O. Joseph back into the fold, there is a Matt Grizzly there. There is Owen Pickering here. There's a bit of a competition again, and maybe that's what this is. It is spurring Ryan Graves to battle through all these other guys in the in the lineup right now to get his space back and find his way back into the lineup. I mean, that's usually just what happens whenever teams add names like that. It's suddenly, now you're adding to the competition. You're adding to the in-season competition that essentially what has been going on with the Penguins for the last couple seasons. But now, again, you're adding the new name of P.O. There's a bit more to it. My other theory is, and it's a bit more of a long shot, they're preserving him because Kyle Dubas is on the phones. He's working the phones. He's trying to figure out a way to keep him healthy, shelter him to maybe bump the draft stock. And by shelter, I mean, here are the few minutes he's playing. He's looking good. Take him out. I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
That team doesn't want him. Okay, put him back in. Boost the draft stock. Boost the draft stock. And I'm on the phone. Take him out. Again, that one's a bit more, a bit less likely just because who's taking Ryan Graves right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, anything's possible in the NHL. Kyle Dubas might be able to work wonders. We'll see.
I was going to say, it is very hard to trade an $18 million healthy scratch. So I understand the thinking behind it is, hey, he's played well. The longer you keep him out there, the more likely it is that he regresses back to what he was last season, which was unplayable and untradeable. Right now, he's probably still untradeable, but he's not unplayable, which opens up the door partially for that second half of that, which is the tradable part. But putting him in the press box again, right? I mean, that's now would be technically 6 of his last 12. He's been scratched half of the last dozen games. That's hard to trade whenever you have $18 million strapped to his back, 4.5 a year. And I understand the salary cap is expected to rise considerably, but again, expected to and does are two different things, first of all. And second of all, do you really want to be fitting Ryan Graves at 4.5 under your cap? Probably not. Dealing with a guy like, we've had that conversation, made that argument for Rickard Rakell if he's a trade piece later in this season because he has 3 years left at a pretty high cap number, and said, well, you know what? He's scoring so well now, even if he falls off, it's worth it because the cap's going to go up. Ryan Graves at 4.5 whenever he's playing even better, probably still closer to 2.5 right now as far as market value. I'm not saying that that's the hard and fast number, but eye test wise, that's what it feels like. It just feels like if the plan is to try to get him enough value just to get him off the books, they're not doing that in the right way. If the plan is to actually build his confidence, scratching him for 6 of the 12 is not the right way, especially whenever you say, oh, maybe it's just a competition. And yet, Matt Grizzly has struggled very mightily, and Grizzly is not a great penalty killer. Graves is a pretty decent penalty killer this year. It's a matter of, oh, well, you need Grizzly for the power play. Really? Like, I understand he's performed well on the power play, but do you need him on the power play over a guy like Kris Letang, over a guy like Erik Karlsson? Like, you shouldn't need him on the power play. He's been good, but this is an argument that a lot of people have made is, hey, listen, at least Matt Grizzly is pretty good on the power play. That's great, but you got 2 guys that should be able to handle those duties. Like, yeah, keeping him in the lineup because he is a good power play guy on a team where he should be the 3rd power play defenseman is not a reason in my eyes, because I just don't think, even though I thought he played a decent game on Saturday, Matt Grizzly, I don't think that his power play proficiencies outweigh his struggles when it comes to defending his own zone at any level. I mean, power play, 5-on-5 or anything. So I just think it's really interesting that they've preached all off season long that they want to build Ryan Graves' confidence, to see it work out in Pittsburgh. And yet whenever he plays well, they don't reward him for that. In fact, they do the opposite and they take him out of the lineup. I don't know what the plan is. And I understand that a lot of people are going to say, who cares? He's out of the lineup. Asset management wise, I feel like that's not a good thing, and it's going to end to more bad things for the Penguins if they continue to do it.
Yeah. And like I said, I just had my theories. As for Matt Grizzly, I mean, he's not Patrick Laine in terms of he's only scored power play goals. Even Patrick Laine knows he needs to improve in the 5-on-5 space. But Matt Grizzly, that's not the same player. Patrick Laine can be a power play weapon. Matt Grizzly is doing good things offensively this year. Okay, cool. What about the defensive side of the game? Like we just talked about with pairing him with Kris Letang, or trying to be a Dumoulin replacement almost. It's hard to do that, and he's not providing that. Ryan Graves wasn't providing that either. Again, it's just, you're kind of shelving him to the point of, I don't know, losing confidence, losing everything you might have building and momentum.
Yeah. Momentum was a big word that I was thinking of right there. So I'm glad.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's maybe he was building something with that momentum. Everyone discussed last year of, maybe he can Paul Martin this. He had the bad first year, but he's able to come back next year. I mean, everyone would immediately respond to that with, yeah, but Paul Martin's a different player.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's all a tough situation. It's all a lot of competition that's going on. I think that's sort of in my head where I'm going to base a lot of how I see this defense going forward, because Owen Pickering has been called up for so long, has been playing so well. Matt Grizzly has done his duties in a way. P.O. Joseph's back in the fold. I mean, Jack St. Ivany before his injury was in the fold quite a bit. Ryan Shea's still around. There's a lot of names all of a sudden floating around this defense that have NHL talent and have NHL abilities. It'll be up to Ryan Graves to sort of fight through the muck and prove that he should be in the lineup over Owen Pickering, especially if Owen Pickering's rookie heat cools off.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be ready for that opportunity, and I would assume he's a professional. He'll be able to be ready to go and step in when he can. Won't be to the level that Chad Ruhwedel was, but all those years of he's sitting for 15 games, he's back in for 4. You know how good he was for those 4? He's sitting for another 10. This is a bit of a different player, but if Ryan Graves can do anything, it is a bare minimum, be ready. And if Kyle Dubas gets that right phone call, there's no reason why he shouldn't be taking it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that should obviously be on the table, because at 4 more years of this, you'd like to be able to free yourself of that, especially when you're trying to do whatever shotgun rebuild, whatever term you put on it. But when I look at Ryan Graves, I see somebody who has earned more of an opportunity this year than he's been given. And the fact that he has that contract makes it a little bit more, sense of urgency here. Let's make sure that this guy can continue to build on that momentum, because unless another general manager is going to bail out the Penguins, and we have seen general managers bail out other general managers and all layers of the sports world. Unless that happens, though, I just don't see a way in which, specifically this season, the Penguins offload Ryan Graves. Not without eating a significant portion of his salary, or without doing it for future considerations and getting literally nothing in return except for 4 more years of retained salary and absolutely nothing.
Call up Anaheim.
Yeah.
Call up Anaheim.
Unless somebody wants to bail him out, shout out the Anaheim Ducks. I think I don't know if they're going to be able to do that twice in a season, especially considering Trouba is essentially double what Ryan Graves is. But, it's a situation to follow.